This is Take 5 with Bentley Nevada. Joining us for another episode is Chris McMillan, Senior Product Manager for Bentley Nevada's sensor portfolio. And Chris, that includes the Ranger Pro wireless system.
Glad to be back.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you with us, Chris. It's been a fascinating series of discussions, and we've got some more road that needs to be traveled. Last time we talked about some of the ways the system can return different types of data, waveforms versus overall data. And I think a question most people will have is, although you can configure the system to return data at different intervals, what about the actual system capability to return data differently based on what it detects? So let's say it detects an alarm. Is it capable of returning data differently under an alarm condition?
It is. We hinted at it, briefly in one of our prior episodes. I call it, the sensor being smart. All of these features that we're gonna talk about today here, they're all user enabled. So you can, the user can enable these smart features, these automatic features, or you can disable them. And then the question you just asked about, hey, is the sensor smart enough, or can it be enabled to either detect, when there's auto detect when there's a machine condition? And the answer is yes. So what I mean by that is we call this data on severity. And the sensor itself has two levels, called kind of an alert and alarm type level settings, where you would set the vibration characteristic that you want it not to exceed, and the sensor itself will go ahead and wake up, of course, and take its reading. And if it detects that it's above the alert level, it will take some predefined actions. Typically, it will, let's say, attach a waveform or a spectrum to that piece of data that's in high alert status. Or if it's an alarm, you may want to default. The user may want to default and see, as much data as it can, as often as it can. So the sensor will automatically default to its fastest scan time, if you will, coming through. And of course, it will automatically default back to its previously configured intervals. So the sensor itself has some embedded smarts and analytics here to help our operators.
Well, that sounds very powerful, Chris, and it saves you from having to go in and reconfigure it yourself. It just kind of does that by itself on the fly. Let's go to the other extreme of a machine, because a lot of times these assets, they may not run continuously. These might be spared pumps or other machines, or even production lines that don't run continuously. What happens when a machine's not running? Can the sensor detect that, and what does it do about it?
Sure, that is another advanced feature that is available. There's no real means for any sensor to know if a machine is on or off without some sort of switch or wire or something else telling it the machine's on or off. So how we get around this or add value here is we basically sense a minimum vibration level. So typically, obviously, in that scenario, if it's a periodic machine or process here, if it's off, it's going to have very low vibrations. And what we mean by that is we set a minimum threshold. The Ranger Pro sensor will wake up, go ahead and take a reading. But if it determines, hey, the machine is not even exceeded just some minimum threshold, it's going to infer that machine is off. So it will save save the battery life.
Mm-hmm.
It will not forward that information onto a system one or a DCS. It will, however, send a message that, hey, I did take, I woke up to take a reading, but, it looks like the machine was off. So at least, the sensor is still reading. So, and of course, if it's above that vibration level, it will happily carry on and send that data through.
So it's returning a status message. I looked, it didn't appear the machine was running, so we didn't collect any data. Let's go now to the issue of not so much the sensor detecting that it should take more data or no data, but a situation where you, as the user, want to get some data right now. So is there kind of a fetch it now button, if you will?
There is, and that's the third advanced feature that we have here on the sensor. And that's that data on demand. To your point, hey, you're a user or an operator, you're looking at a piece of data. I'd like to see data now. So there is the option in the ability to acquire data now. Now, of course, with that caveat, there's always a little asterisk. With any data on demand or acquired data now, both wireless HARTs and ISA 100 systems, they're not, they're not as at the speed of a cellular network. So you're going to see a little bit of a latency. However, it will still be timestamped. So when you select data on demand, you're going to expect about, an 8 to 10 minute delay before you start seeing that data come through.
I would think that's usually sufficient, though, if you compare to the time it takes to suit up,
Correct.
grab
Yes.
a portable instrument, and walk out to the asset. So good to know, Chris. Well, I'm sounding like a broken record, but there's more ground to cover. This is a very rich product with a lot of functionality in it, and I want to keep going, but we can't do that in the allotted time for today. So we'll have you back in the studio real soon, and we'll continue our discussions on Ranger Pro. Sound like a plan?
Sounds good.
Thank you, Chris. This has been Take 5 with Bentley Nevada, a Baker Hughes business.